And good day. It's 1 o'clock, Monday. And yes, last week I could not do a live broadcast because I was off doing an MTO facility, mock facility audit. Of course, I cannot do a facility audit, but I can show people what the officers are going to be looking for when they come in to perform an audit. So that's what I was doing last Monday. This Monday, it's been a great week since I've been away. I've got a lot of emails and questions have come in, and I thank you. Thank you so much for giving me these questions. And that's what we're going to do largely on this live broadcast is I'm going to try to answer your CVOR questions. And you can either ask them live if you get a chance to tune in with me at Mondays at 1 p.m. or you can send me an email, chris@cvor.ca. I'm not the government, so you can ask questions and I'll give you my answers, okay? May not be as good as the government, but I'll tell you, sometimes I get questions that people don't want to ask the government. So it works out, believe me. All right, Kervin sent me an email this week, and he said that he had sent in his CVOR application, and he's waiting now, and he doesn't know how long he's going to wait. So you send in your CVOR application, the MTO will review it and send out a letter to you giving you permission to go to the drive test center to write your test. So don't forget to bring a copy of the letter with you when you go to the drive test center. Bring identification with you because only you can write the test. You have to be a director or an officer on the corporation. If it's a corporation, if it's a sole proprietor, then you can go write the test, but you need to bring identification. So bring the letter, bring identification, and of course, bring your faculties because the test is not easy. The test is not easy, as we will get to in a minute. I've had a couple of questions this week about that. A landscaper, he didn't tell me his name. I got his corporate name, but of course I don't have permission to use his name, so I'm going to have to leave it out. But a landscaper wrote me this week and he said, I don't quite understand the CVOR thing. I'm just a landscaper with a 3500 series truck, and because it's over 4500 kg, I have to take the CVOR test. And that test is more geared towards semis. He says what's this here? He has a D license, I believe. I've taken the test twice now, and both times, most of the questions are about straight trucks and larger. And the test that they have online, I have passed it. Oh, he must be okay. You know that MTO has a practice test online, and I too have a practice test online. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Just to finish his comments, I passed it, but when I get there to the drive test center, it's completely different. Thank you. Oh, he did give me his name. It's William. William, I am told that the MTO has hundreds of questions for the CVOR test. Someone once told me that they have approximately 300 questions. The test that you go and write, of course, is only 30 questions. So they have a large bank that they can select from. I have created a practice test of 70 questions, 77 I think the actual number is. And the problem is I've asked several times if MTO would share their test questions, because not that I wanted to put them all on the internet, quite frankly, I wanted to develop a course based on their test questions so that if you took the course, you would be able to pass the CVOR test. Well, they denied me. I've asked, as they say, several times. I asked under the Freedom of Information Act. I kind of slurred those words. Freedom of Information Act. and I was denied. I emailed people that I know personally at the MTO, and again, they had to decline for various reasons. So I'm told they have hundreds of questions, and you've got to read the safety manual. And if you need a copy of the safety manual, please throw me a quick email and I'll send you a copy of it. MTO has published a safety manual. It's nearly 300 pages, I know. It's a big read, but there's only 4 or 5 chapters that you really need to study. And again, I know which ones they are, so please shoot me an email and I will answer your questions, maybe on this live video. Excuse me. So that was William's question. Yes, he has a 4,500 kg truck, or sorry, his truck is over 4,500 kg and he's got to go write the test. And the test is largely based on work for tractor trailers or work on straight trucks. It is not configured for either tow trucks specific or for people like landscapers who have large pickup trucks and a small trailer that they pull, not a 53-footer. So I agree with you, William. Unfortunately, that's the test you've got to pass until things change. And perhaps they will. If the MTO hears this and watches this video, they may hear your concern and maybe they can adjust the test. All right, the next one. Oren. Oh, yes, Oren, O-R-A-N. He sent me an email this week. When he completed his application, when applying for the CVOR, he didn't include any insurance information. And what happened is that MTO then reached out and said, you didn't complete the insurance information. Can you provide it? And which he did, and now his application is in process. So it's not the end of the world if you forget to do something, but it delays your application. And totally a side note here, MTO are really wonderful people. I have had a lot of interactions with them. Remember that they are mandated with keeping Ontario roads safe. And while doing that, they really try to do customer service. I've been very impressed with MTO in my dealings with them. So if you remember that, they're there to keep our roads safe. Writing this test is the first step. The test is largely based on what is your responsibilities as a company owner when it comes to operating CVOR licensed vehicles on Ontario highways. And that's their job. They want to keep us safe, all of us safe. And some people think they've made it more difficult than it needs to be. I, for one, think there's too many trucking companies and some of them shouldn't be licensed at all. So, and specifically, I've asked this question a lot, but I'm really thinking about Humboldt and the lack of teeth that carrier will be subject to. He will do, the carrier, the owner of the trucking company will do no jail time, might pay thousands of dollars, up to $40,000 if they're convicted of every charge, but only $40,000 if they're convicted of every charge to the maximum. And my goodness, I think it was 16 people lost their life. So Ontario MTO has a mandate to keep our roads safe and have us avoid disasters like Humboldt. And I, for one, think they're doing a hell of a job. Whoop, heck of a job. So CVOR application error, just remember, they will reach out customer service wise and try to fix it for you if they possibly can. And lastly, Joe, this is a long email, so hang in. Joe from a farm says, just wanted to give you some feedback. Love what you have set up and that it's free. Thank you. After reading the manual and all the modules, my husband and I felt like superstars and went for the CVOR test at the driver's office. We both failed 4 times at $32 a shot. So 4 times 32, that's a whack. My husband is very knowledgeable with the CVOR and has a previous license from a sole proprietor business. I am new to the CVOR, but not new to studying hard and excelling. I was an honor grad back in my day. The questions on your practice test were worded nicely and straightforward. The writer of the MTO test is obviously a shareholder and gets a percentage of every test written. Very disturbing. We weren't the only ones in there that afternoon that were failing. Why? Perhaps your organization can pool a collective of opinions and make a change to the way the MTO test questions are worded. After all, it is the facts that we are expected to know, not to be able to work our way through mind-bending trickery and empty our wallets. Thanks for your email, Joe. Appreciate it. Don't know what I can do yet. I do have one request. If everybody who writes the CVOR test were to send me one question that they remember and the answers that were available to them, then I can start adding more CVOR test questions to the practice test. All right. If you would email me one question, everybody send me one question from the CVOR test with the appropriate answers if you can remember them, and I will include it on the practice test. And hopefully that would make it easier for you, because as I said earlier in this video, MTO won't share their practice test. And quite honestly, I'm not sure why, but that's their decision. They own it, and I honor it. But if this would be a legal way for me to get the test questions, if you were to all send me one question, I understand there's somewhere around 300 questions. So if everybody would remember one question, maybe I could up the number of practice test questions to the hundreds instead of just 77. All right, appreciate it so much. Last question. I got another email this week. So far we've been dealing with all the people who are new to the CVOR. And hopefully I answered some of those questions for you. However, I had a customer. He had what is called a show cause hearing. So this is if you have your CVOR already and you screw it up, what can happen? Well, you get an invitation to go to the MTO in St. Catharines and have a meeting. You sit down with the deputy registrar or the assistant deputy registrar and 3 to 4 other people. It's quite intimidating. You're in a boardroom, small boardroom, and there are 3 to 4 MTO people there and yourself. And in the case of this particular landscaper, he asked me to go with him. Him and I worked together for about a week before the presentation. We went to the MTO because the MTO was within their rights to close this man down. It's a one truck operation, landscaper, and he had really messed up his CVOR. He had just ignored all the previous interventions, as they're called, or warnings, and now he was sitting there in front of 4 people begging that they don't shut his trucking company down or take away his CVOR license. Well, that was about a year ago, maybe only 6 months ago. And since that time, he has added more violations. I'm not working for him anymore. However, he asked a very simple question. How can I get a new CVOR? Well, the good news is he can't. Or at least the MTO has made it very difficult for him to get a new CVOR. And this is because if you go and wreck one CVOR, why should you be able to just close down that company and open up a new company and continue to be a menace on our roads? So any corporation with this man's name on it, and it can have other people on the incorporation, his name is now flagged, and I would doubt very much that MTO would allow him to open up another corporation with his name on it, because currently this gentleman is sitting at 128% of the overall violation rate. And if you don't know what that means, it means terrible. Remember that serious intervention starts at 35%, where you get a warning letter and more looks at the scales when you drive by a scale. At 50%, you go on the list of perhaps being audited. At 70%, your rating is guaranteed to change from satisfactory unaudited to conditional. At 100%, not only are you invited to St. Catharines for a meeting, but your rating is going to change again to unsatisfactory. Try to get insurance. In today's insurance market, and today is March the 18th, I'm Irish, yesterday was St. Paddy's Day. March the 18th today, and it is extremely difficult in 2019 if you have blemishes on your record to get insurance. The trucking insurance industry is cracking down on trucking companies who should not be in business, and right now it's a real contest to see who's putting more companies out of business, I think, insurance or the MTO. Currently, insurance might be winning. It is extremely difficult. If you have a conditional rating on your CVOR, it is difficult to get insurance. If you are unsatisfactory, I gotta think it's nearly impossible to get insurance. Now, when I say that, recognize that there is always facility, and facility is a market that is set up. Having some insurance in my background, but I'm far from an insurance expert. But as I understand it, facility is set up because the government says you must have insurance, therefore it must be available. So when the regular markets, the normal insurance companies, fail to quote you insurance, then this is what happens. You end up having to go to facility, and facility is 3 to 4 times the price of the regular insurance market. All right, hey Cam and Parmajet, I just checked my chat there and I see that you guys have joined. Thanks so much. But I think that's all my emails for today, for this week. So I'm going to say sayonara. I'm going to cut this out now. I thank you so much for tuning in. Hope this has been of help. Give it a like if you like it. And the Safety Dog is out. Thanks so much. Bye. See you next week, Monday at 1 p.m.